guys need to be practicing is you will be doing, here you go, 6.02. So go ahead and type that in. Oh, there it goes. Now it's on the screen. Maybe? No. There it is. Okay. 6.02. And again, we're not going to push this 10 to the X button. We're not going to push this. We're not going to say times 10. Nothing like that. You're going to hit second. That's the top left corner. Yours is a blue button. I'm not going to be able to help you much. So you probably want to go grab a calculator. 6.02. And then we're going to put the second button. We're going to hit this one that says X to the negative 1 power. So now an E will, nope. Sorry guys, I hit second again. Okay. Now I'm focused. All right, so 6.02. We hit that button right after second. So 6.02, second, this button. You should have an E show up on your screen. Okay, and then we're going to hit 23. You're going to push enter and have that show up on your screen. Okay, so check to see that that's what's showing up. I want to point out something. So you see this times 10 to the 23rd. If that shows up in an answer, you need to include that in your answer. That's the number, okay? So let's just write out those steps so that you guys can come back to your notes and remember how to type this in. You will hit 6.02. Then we hit second. Then we hit X to the negative 1 that had an EE above it. And then 23. Okay? When you use this method, that allows us to not have to use any parentheses or anything like that. It also won't mess up our decimal places. Okay? So it's really important that whenever you have something in scientific notation, you need to push this EE button. Okay? There is something that you can use on 5-6 moles of CO2. All right, so lots of big words in here. What we're going to focus in on is what the number is. So we're going to underline the number and whatever word is right after it. 4.56 moles. What that tells you is that you are starting in moles. Right? Just like if I was starting in dimes and I wanted it in pennies. That's what I mean by the units, okay? There's a big difference. All right, so we're starting in moles. You want to circle what the question is asking for. What is the question actually asking for? Molecules. So we're going to circle the word molecules. Okay, circle the word molecules. So now that we have where we're going to go, we have moles to molecules. What is molecules also known as? Particle. It's a particle. So we are going from moles to particles. So ultimately, we are going to be moles to particles. We're going to be multiplying, okay? But I need you guys to train yourself to use these little, we call these railroad tracks, because in the next chapter, they aren't going to be just these 4 little boxes. It's going to be like 6, all right? And so train yourself on the easy ones. Nobody believes me until you're there, and then you're like, oh, I wish I did it. Okay, so just make yourself do it, okay? So when you're using these little railroad tracks, basically, we always cross out this box. We don't really use it, okay? It's representing the number 1. There's nothing there, okay? So we're going to be putting numbers into these 3 boxes over here, okay? You always start with multiplication going across, and then you're going to divide down, right? So you'll multiply going across and then divide down. When we get to stoichiometry, that's the next chapter, okay? That'll be really important that you do this order. You multiply everything across the top, you push equals, and then you divide by everything on the bottom, okay? But for now, it's really going to be pretty simple, and honestly, you'll see a 1 show up, and you know, what is anything divided by 1? No, itself. And what is anything multiplied by 1? Itself, right? So it's negligible. It doesn't really make a difference in your calculation, so this is when you want to learn it on. All right. So back to their little railroad track. We're going to put 4.56 into this first box. And you want to follow up with the word. Okay? Okay, your word needs to come down to the right. The reason we do that is it will cancel out the words. If I were to ask you, what is 4 divided by 4? What's the answer? What is 5 divided by 5? What's 10 divided by 10? If I said, what's cupcake divided by cupcake? It's not cupcake. It's 1. It's 1. Yeah, I know. It's 1. All right? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to turn those words into the number 1, basically. All right? That's a complicated thing. All you got to know is that as long as you have 1 on top, 1 on bottom, they cancel out, woo, and they go away. All right? That's what you guys got to know. But what I just explained was why it works. Okay? It turns into the number 1. All right, moving on though. Don't focus too hard on that. You need to have a word on top and on bottom in order to get it eliminated. All right, so we have moles down here. Remember, we're trying to change into the word molecules. Don't get lazy on your labeling, okay? You cannot shorten molecules. I am so sorry. It's terrible. I suffered through it too. But you got to write it out because you don't want to confuse moles and molecules. They're different. Totally different, okay? So we have moles and molecules right here. So now we're like, well, what are we going to put? Okay, so we're going to go back up the top of the page. We have number 2 up here. It says 1 mole is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, so let's look at right here. Something mole is something molecules. Where's the 1 going to go? The top or the bottom? Goes on the bottom. Exactly. We put 1 with the word mole. Always. This is a guarantee. Okay? Always going to happen. What's going to go on top, do you think? Exactly. Avogadro's number. So 6.02 E23. So notice I'm using that E thing so that I can keep thinking like how I'm going to type it into my calculator. Right? Okay. So let's go ahead and multiply those together. Let's get our answer. You guys are doing really well. I'm proud of you. So you'll notice we won't be using any parentheses or anything like that. We're just going to be typing it in exactly what we see here. So I have 4.56. I'm going to multiply across. So I'm going to say times, and I'm going to type in Avogadro's number. 6.02 second E23. Okay. I'm going to push enter. So I multiplied everything across the top, and then I know that if I divide it by 1, it's going to be itself, so you don't really have to do that, okay? But that's the answer you're trying to get. 2.7, I'm going to round up to 2.75 to go to the second decimal place. And then you're going to say times 10 to the 24. And what's the word that we're going to put after it? Because moles got canceled, so moles doesn't exist anymore. Molecules, yeah. Good. Just so you know, you can write your answer in our calculator version, which is 2.75 E24 molecules. I have no problem with that. In my opinion, that's easier. Okay? Okay. Bye. Have a great day. Happy Valentine's Day. And thank you. All right. How are we doing? Okay? Let's do one more example, and then I'm going to stop talking. I promise. All right. So the next one says, how many moles of water is 5.87 times 10 to the 22nd? What'd you say? Yep, no problem. All right. So how many moles of water is 5.87 times 10 to the 22nd molecules? So first thing that we're going to do, we're going to underline our number and whatever word came after it. So we're starting with molecules. That means we're starting with particle, right? We are heading to whatever the question is asking. How many moles? So we're going to circle the word moles. Whatever you're underlining goes in that first box. So we're going to say 5.87. I'm going to say E22 molecules. Okay, so again, I just want to stress that we're doing E instead of times 10 exponent. Okay. Okay, we're using this bottom box, but we do want molecules to show up on top and on bottom because we want it to disappear. We want it to cancel out, turn into the number 1, right? So we're going to put molecules down to the right. and we're going to end with what we want on top. So whatever you circle is what goes into that top box right there. Okay? All right, so now we're going to ask ourselves again. Okay, our definition of a mole is 1 mole is equal to 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So, is the 1 going to go on top or on bottom? It goes on top this time, because that's where the word mole is. So 1 mole is, and then Avogadro's number goes with the word. Okay? So the difference between these two, and that's related to how 5 and 6, these are kind of your survival fallbacks, by the way. 5 and 6 tell you if I'm going from moles to particles, I'm going to multiply. If I'm going from particles to moles, I'm going to divide. You can always fall back on those two ideas and make sure that you're putting them in the right spot, right? So this one, we're going from molecules to moles, so we would divide, all right? Now, when you go to type this one in, we're going to go 5.87 E22 times 1 divided by this. Or do we need to do that multiplying by 1? No, because we know that it's going to equal itself. So you can just skip right ahead to 5.87 times 10 to the 22nd, or E22, divided by Avogadro's number. So go ahead and type that one in. Let's see if you get the right answer. Actually, maybe on this one, I will go ahead and show on Google. Okay, so when you're on Google, you're going to hit 5.87. Just kidding. 5.87. So there is no E button on Google, but you can hit exponent, so EXP. That just makes the E show up, okay? And then 22. I'm going to multiply it by 1. Hit enter, so I have it. And then I'm going to divide it by Avogadro's number, 6.02 exponent 23. Push enter again, and there we go. Okay? So, .0.098, so I'm rounding up again, okay? And then there is no times 10. So if you notice this one, there was nothing over here on the right-hand side. So because of that, you just write it as it is, and then we're going to follow up with what the word is. So we eliminated molecules. Molecules went away. They disappeared. We're left with moles. Okay? All right. Awesome.